Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Shake Sales. I'm your host, Maggie Bloom, the sales evangelist at Mailshake. And today we are speaking with Olga Zapisek. She is the CEO and founder at Novidia Creative. It's a boutique digital marketing agency and consultancy with engagement, storytelling, and experiences at its core. And I'm really, really excited to talk with Olga today. I know I say that about every single episode, but we're going to be talking about two of my favorite things that I love learning more about, which is social posts, which I definitely need help with, and then also mindset. So I just am really excited for this conversation today, Olga. Thank you so much for being here. Do you mind taking some time to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on, Maggie. It's really a pleasure, and I love doing podcasts and speaking events, just helping people. So just like you said, a big part, of what my team and I do is we help service-based and purpose-driven brands. And also, we've been helping a lot of visionary and ambitious women, CEOs, coaches, and corporate renegades to really unlock their growth potential and elevate their brand voice. And we're also helping them to increase their, impact really and success mindset to go along with that. So we do this through really bespoke done with you coach salting programs. So I call it coach salting because I feel you can have a lot of fun implementing coaching, consulting, and training all in one. And then we have the done for you agency services that revolve around content marketing and thought leadership.
Amazing. Yeah. And I love your mission behind all of it. It's not just like you're, helping teams out there doing digital marketing, but you're actually helping full circle, talking about mindset, talking about coaching, consultancy, coach
consultancy.
How do you say it again? Coach consultancy. Okay. I was like, I knew I was going to butcher it, but I liked it. But no, amazing. And I know a lot of your background and what we talked about prior before this is about posting on social media. So that's really what I want to get into today. The audience for this podcast is a lot of salespeople out there. Mm-hmm. So I know we can gear the conversation a little bit more towards them, which a lot of sales reps nowadays, and I know I was one of them starting out as an AE, where I was not told to post. No one was forcing me to, but it was very much like, hey, if you start posting on social media and building your personal brand, you're gonna see results from it, no matter what type of sales position you're in. So I guess to kind of get right into it, what's like one thing all high performing social media posts have in common?
So from my perspective, I would say that's emotion. It all goes back to emotion and feelings. So obviously, we as humans are inherently emotional, right? We're emotional beings. We're driven by emotion. Our purchase decisions, right, coming from a sales perspective, are driven through emotions. So when we feel something like really, really strongly, we share it, right? So it almost becomes impulsive, I would say, whether that's in conversation, whether that's on social media, email marketing, right? It becomes impulsive. We want to share it. We want to inspire others with it because we have this strong emotional connection to it. So I would say if you want your social media posts to, receive greater engagement and lead to conversions, right? Because that's what we're always going for. We want those conversions, we want the sales. Mm-hmm. So you'll want to focus in on, I would say, really delivering, obviously, value, right? We always hear this time and time again, value first, but also creating a feeling, really an emotional connection that elicits that strong emotional response from a person who's reading. So I would say this is where storytelling will come in, right? Because it always comes down to stories, and people might get bored with my message about this, but stories are everything. So it's storytelling, knowing your audience to really the core, because you want to make sure those stories connect, and creating an experience around all that. Because I would say you don't want to just tell any old story, right? Because if you start telling any old story, you're going to lose people. You want to be really telling a story that's going to change a person's life, that's going to change your audience's life. And you want to connect and show that you understand them. So basically, you want to answer, I would say, a question of what are they struggling with and how can you support them, right? What powerful story or message can I give them from my own experience, my own human experience as a brand, right? That's where the personal branding comes into play. You want to really hone in on what your team has been doing, what if you're the CEO, if you're just a one-person business, right? A lot of solopreneurs out there. So think about what you've experienced and give them that powerful story or message behind it. Of your expertise even, right? If you don't want to get too personal, it can be about your expertise that will trigger a reaction to comment, to engage, to message you, to share, and to take action. So, I always say that there's a really easy way to create such stories. I have this like a little formula, but I'd be happy to share with your audience if you want.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up, Olga, because this is like my problem with posting on social. I post every single day on LinkedIn, and a lot of sales reps do the same on our team. And the biggest problem I have, or like confusion, is like, okay, we have really good content where we can help people out, but we're not always good at saying it. And I'm mostly speaking for myself, and I know I need to get better at storytelling. But for me, doing it, it's like worse than having writer's block, because I think to myself, like, okay, here's the concept. This is what I want to teach someone. Like, what the heck kind of story am I gonna connect this to? Am I gonna like look up analogies online or things like that, which I've tried doing and it really doesn't help? So I would love to hear your framework of how you can incorporate storytelling.
Yeah. So first of all, going back just to emotion first, right? To incorporate emotion first of all into the storytelling before you get even started on the storytelling. I want you to focus on really 3 core emotions, right? Because there are 6 core emotions. There's also sadness, anger, and disgust, but you don't want to elicit that kind of response ever in sales or marketing. So I would go with surprise. For instance, having a framework of creating a post that has a challenging assumption, right? So if you have some common, assumptions, go with it as if it's a myth almost, shift that perspective or provide them with a statistic that might be startling to them at first, right? It's something that they haven't thought about in that way. So anything that's really unexpected, that element of surprise to them. There's also joy. So, inspirational stories from your own experience come into play here. Anything that your audience would find inspirational that you've went through, right? You went through all those pain points that they've suffered through. And you can now inspire them, motivate them, let them see that there's a light at the end of a tunnel. So sharing those and fear. Right? You would think fear. No, I don't want to elicit fear in my audience, but fear can work to your advantage if done properly. So using, as long as you understand your pain points of your audience, you can use that to your benefit in really using it as motivation and inspiration. So you won't be generating a response of fear per se. You'll be inspiring them to really look deep inside and see what they can change. And you provide a solution. That's where the value comes into play, because you don't want to just leave them hanging. You want to tell them there's something you can do about this fear. So those are some things you can do. But with storytelling, really, you also want to make sure that you're creating a content calendar of sorts for yourself. And pacing yourself as you go. I always say good places to look for inspiration, if you're running out of ideas and you're blocked a little bit, even just going through books, a quote might just inspire you. A word might inspire you. Reading other people's content and seeing how can I shift the perspective on that, right? So there's so many different ways to go about it. I could probably mention hundreds of ways for you, but I don't want to overwhelm people here.
No, I love it. So the 3 emotions that you want to evoke are joy, fear, and then surprise.
Yes.
Leave the other ones out. And then on top of that, I like what you said at the end there of you want to make sure, and I know I notice this myself too, if I'm not consuming enough content, then I am not creating enough content either, or not getting enough ideas to create content. And so it's funny, like a lot of my inspiration will come from what I'm consuming at that time. So for example, right now, I mostly only listen to relationship podcasts. I want to say that I'm listening to a lot of sales podcasts, but it's minimal. So a lot of my content will come from like those. Like obviously I just get like spark ideas like, oh, this could relate to sales. And of course it can, because it's about relationships. Or like I try to just like take kind of part of their content and put it into what I'm doing there now. But I love it. So using those three emotions and then making sure that you're consuming content in different places.
Exactly.
But yeah. And so, yeah, we talked a little bit about like, evoking those emotions, storytelling. And, I mentioned in the beginning, like a lot of what's put on sales reps' plates now, or what makes a really good salesperson is them posting on LinkedIn and building their personal brand. It's putting them ahead with job opportunities, even like in their own deal pipelines. If someone sees that they're building their personal brand, it's giving them more credibility.
Yeah.
So I guess like how can sales reps make this a core of their content, and like how can marketing help them through all of this too?
So sales, right? Very important relationship building, like you were talking about those podcasts that you listen to.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say it comes down to asking, the right questions in both content, but also in messaging and reaching out to people, right? So when you're actually doing the reach out to prospects, you want to be asking right questions. So questions that not only would help build credibility, but connection. And you want to generate, again, that emotional response. It all comes down to those feelings, right? Like I was saying. So what I really mean by that is, we want to first consider the individual's scene problem, right? Because we all have scene problems that we can pinpoint, and we think that's our problem, right? So every business owner out there, every consumer out there has a scene problem. But what the individual believes to be their problem isn't really the biggest problem that they have, right? So once that scene problem has been identified, you want to go deeper. You want to go a lot deeper with them. So basically, you want to go into the unseen one, right? The one you can't pinpoint right away. So for instance, let's use an example here. If you have like a mompreneur, right, who's working nonstop, and she needs help with her marketing and her strategy, right? That's what she thinks she needs help with. And she comes to you and she says, I need help with this, Maggie, right now, right away. So you want to really dig deeper and understand why she feels that way, right? Why does she think this is her problem, right? So you start asking the question of why. And she might say something along the lines of, okay, well, this is my problem because I'm burning out, I'm tired, and I have enough. Maybe I'll give up soon, right? That's what she's perceiving the problem to be. But that's just surface level, right?
Totally.
Just something anyone could really see and tell if they just had a small conversation with her. So you want to go deeper. You want to ask, okay, well, what would happen if, you continue down this avenue, right? If this problem isn't fixed, what will happen? What will you feel? What will you miss out on? And she might say, well, I'll miss out on my baby's first steps. Then I'll miss out on their school play. Then I'll miss out on, their soccer game, their graduation. Suddenly, this, problem that she had, it becomes very real to her. There's an emotional connection. There's a whole story there. She can envision it. She can feel it. And she doesn't want to be missing out on these things. So when that becomes real, you've hit it. You can connect to that person, because it's about connecting to the story, right? You want to find out what their story is, where their story is going, and what they're feeling, and their emotions connected with now, and then what's going to happen. So it's all about asking those really, really deep questions, right? Don't just go surface level. If somebody says, oh, I need marketing or sales help, or I need health and wellness help, right? Whatever your business is, go deeper than that. Go deeper. See what the connection is.
Absolutely. Because we see it all the time with like, let's take a sales email, for example, just because I work at Mailshake, so this is a good example. But we all get triggers sometimes in emails, and trigger being like that first line that someone reaches out to you with in an email that says something like, do you want to close more deals? And it's like, well, of course. And they're thinking the problem is like, Maggie's not closing enough deals. Like, I would say that 100% of sales managers want to close more deals. And I'm sure some of them are saying, we're not hitting our numbers, especially in a time like this. So it's like, that's a pretty obvious pain that someone has. Yeah. But yeah, like going a level deeper of like, that's their pain. How are they having problems solving that problem? Yeah. And that's where everything else comes in, and that those emotions come up too, of like those real triggers you can reach out to. And what you said made me think of like triggers and emails. So for like salespeople listening out there, think about the triggers that you write for your ICP. So you have to obviously do a bit of research on your ICP, see how your product or service is going to connect the dots there. And then that trigger, that first line is what's going to get someone to open and read an email and keep reading it. It's the same thing with social media posts. It's like, that's your hook in the beginning of how are you going to portray some type of emotion to get people to feel, like you said, fear or joy or I'm blanking on the last one.
Surprise.
Fear, joy, surprise. That's it. Okay. I was like, it's on the tip of my tongue. But that's how they're going to feel those things. So I think it's like a lot of it from what I've been learning and talking with you today is like that hook of it too, and leading that into the rest of what you're going to say as well to get their attention.
Yeah, it's really important. And, marketing teams need to remember, right? Because marketing teams need to work with sales teams, and they need to be in the know of what those fears are, right? Because I see this all the time where if you have a bigger team, the sales team is not informing the marketing team of what the fears are. And all of a sudden the messaging is really off. Everything goes down a rabbit hole that you don't even want to think about. But marketing should be really focusing on creating content, right? That's putting them as thought leaders, the brand. In whether you're a solopreneur or a big, corporation, whatever it is, or somewhere in between that, you want to make sure you're coming out as a thought leader who's cementing their expertise. And empowering your audience emotionally, right? So I know sometimes we think of thought leaders as, these big names, and it has to be someone who has really something enormous to say and be a catalyst for change. But you can be a catalyst for change even when you're a smaller company, and just driving your audience and motivating them, inspiring them, on the daily, weekly, whatever your, posting schedule is. So you don't want to write stories that will be disguised as sales pitches, right? Because we see this very often.
For sure.
And, people are getting smarter and smarter nowadays, and they really want something that's authentic out there. They really want to see you, the person behind the brand. So you want to be audience driven. You want to provide actual value, not something that's a nice to have tip, but that's something that's actually going to solve a problem for them right then and there, right? You have so much expertise, so much value to give. Don't think that one tip is going to change things. And really take a stand on something, right? But most importantly, I would say engage, because this is something I see. They post and they don't engage in the comments. They don't engage by messaging people. You want to make sure that you're actually driving people towards that engagement, right? Post questions as call to actions, for instance. Create polls or quizzes to gain, insight for your sales team, but also for yourself in messaging. What are people feeling, right, about this? Where can I take this? What value are they looking for, right? What other posts can I provide them with? And really reach out via messages, right? Because the point of social media is to be social. So don't be scared. Like if somebody likes your post, right? That's an engagement. Connect with them. Start developing a conversation, because that's somebody who showed interest. So take it further. See if you can be of support in some way.
Yeah. And I think it all goes back to like being a thought leader. I think there's a difference between, we know people out there that, like, I wouldn't even really call them leaders, but people that just like to talk about themselves. And they like to talk about like, hey, here's how I got to the top. And that's kind of how I picture people who just post and don't engage with any other people's posts or comment. And when you're a thought leader or taking a consultative approach to sales, it's really important to be in all of those different kinds of conversations. So you're posting on social media, but then you're also going to your buyers out there who may post on social media, or even people at different companies that talk about the same subjects, and some of your customers are lurking there. Like, join in that conversation too. And then the messaging part of it as well. So it's not only just like, here's my post, I'm Maggie, I know everything, but it's going to other people's stuff, putting their opinion there, asking questions, and also just like saying how it resonated with you, I think is, what's really important about making this personal brand and being this thought leader, because most people want to buy without talking to a salesperson because of the reputation we've gotten. And they feel like they can do it on their own, which, don't get me wrong, like I can purchase a ton of things on my own if I wanted to, even in B2B software. But the reason why people feel intrigued to reach out to someone is because they feel like they're going to have a conversation that's meaningful. And if you can already do that over your social profile and share that, people are going to be reaching out to you about talking about this overarching problem that they have, not just Mailshake, if in my situation. So I love how it kind of comes full circle and how you can use it in different ways to be a thought leader. Like you said, it doesn't need to be you have 1,000 or 100,000 followers
or even
to
a million,
be one.
Right?
Yeah.
It can be small.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so I love it. And we've been talking about this from the sales perspective, and for sales reps, we love to talk about mindset because sales is a very, very emotional job. Obviously, like a lot of, I was talking about this with someone the other day that like, it's so important to have a process in sales and with anything else in life, honestly, but especially with sales because it's so emotional. Whereas in one day you feel like you're on top of the world, you've closed like one of your bigger deals. And then the next day, like you get everyone's rude to you, you're having the worst month after that. So super emotional, really important for us to talk about mindset. And I know I've heard you talk about this before, where you have like a certain mindset when approaching content creation. So could you just talk to us a little bit more about that?
So just like you're saying, mindset is important. I feel like in everything, not just business, but in our life, we need it constantly. And I always say that, we should have a holistic approach, really, to everything that we do in business. So mindset, strategy, marketing, and sales, you need it all. It can't be just silos. So always think of it that way. But when it comes to, mindset and content creation, there's, a ton I could say here. But one of the things that I get a lot from prospects and clients and just questions overall popping in all over the place is sharing too much, right? There's this limiting belief out there, this fear that if I post content, I can't, like, people get blocked because of this and they stop posting content because if I share too much value, right? Because value is so trendy right now. So if I share too much value, then no one's going to work with me. And I say that's bogus. Total big fat lie right there. Total myth and a limiting belief that you're placing in your mind. Because honestly, the more you put out there, the more people connect with you and the more they understand what you're an expert at, right? And honestly, who is going to read every single social media post that you put out there or email? If we're doing that, kudos to them, first of all.
Because, you have a stalker at that point.
But let's face it, we're not the Rolling Stones. We're not Taylor Swift or whoever else out there, right? We're not a celebrity figure. We're just an expert in our field and we're helping people. And, the right message is going to connect with them at the right time. So keep putting that content out there. Don't be scared that I'm going to give away my best stuff. That there's no such thing. Literally no such thing. That will connect. There's so much more you can do. And trust me, we're looking for something that will make their life simpler, not worse, right? We're not going to read every single social media post or watch every single video you put out there because that's going to waste our time. They want you to hold their hand and simplify, right? Whether that's with your service, your product, whatever it is that you're trying to sell. We're looking for something to make their life simpler, not harder. So, put your best stuff out there. Don't be shy about it. Embrace it.
Yeah, people sign up for products or services because they want to save the time. They feel like they can't do those things themselves. They've already tried to solve those problems themselves without you. So that's why they're coming to you. And yeah, like you said, there's no such thing as putting too many secrets out there, for them to grab all that information. If they have the time to do it, it's kind of a waste of money and time for them to do it that way. But yeah, so they're coming to you for your expertise after. But amazing, Olga, that's all the time we have. Otherwise, I would want to talk with you about mindset all day, and I'm happy we're connected, but I want to share with the audience of how they can connect with you. So what's the best place to learn more about you?
I would say, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Don't be shy, right? I really love connecting with people. Don't be shy about asking me questions. I'm here to help. I'm here to support. If I can't help, I have a big referral network and I'll help put you in front of the person you're looking for. And, you can contact me through the website that I have, but just feel free to reach out, really, honestly. And don't be shy about it, because I think that's one thing that people, again, mindset that someone's maybe not approachable, I'll be wasting their time. No, I really enjoy helping people, whether or not I work with them. So feel free to reach out. I'm here.
Take up the offer, everyone. And Olga, thank you so much for being so generous with your time coming on this podcast and offering it up to the audience of, being able to reach out and ask questions, especially with all the knowledge that you gave to us today about emotions, storytelling, social posts, and all having the right mindset of approaching it as well. So I really appreciate you being on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. And thanks everyone for listening to another episode. We'll catch you next time. Bye.